No, this is a sensitive subject.
Yeah.
But I think it is.
Yeah.
We definitely need to address the elephant in the room, the monkey in the room.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another riveting episode of Ohms Lounge podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Neuralink and brain-computer interfaces, AI, and how it's going to be affecting you, and how soon are we going to be seeing this in our world, and how soon can we anticipate the AI takeover and what things are being done to help mitigate those risks.
They're gonna hack our brains.
Yeah, so I ended up finding a lot. I actually had to do a presentation on Neuralink a few years ago for, an emerging technology presentation at a school that I was at. And what I found really interesting was that it was Neuralink, right? So it was the biggest one being talked about, yet there are a lot of other companies that have been dealing with this, I'd say, for like the past 7 years or so. Like, the whole idea of being able to control things with your mind it's not anything new. It's been something that's been researched and funded for a very long time. I mean, on our previous episode, we were talking about how we had Albert the monkey, and
Rest in peace.
how, yeah, R.I.P. pouring out for him. We were talking about how they still had all of these readings on the monkey coming in from orbit, going like Mach 21, 15,000 miles an hour. And then he was alive up until the moment of impact. So, like, we have a lot of history whenever it comes down to, like, getting body readings and things of that nature, albeit that it was started with animals and then it's kind of made its way toward humans. Nowadays, you see that being way more put out to the public with Neuralink and them using their presentation on their monkey using a brain-computer interface to play a game of Pong.
Wow.
And that's pretty relevant.
Yeah, so when we talk about these brain measuring devices, this interface, and how invasive they have to be to actually pick up all this information, it makes you wonder. In some white papers, they suggest, okay, these brain machine interfaces, multiple devices would have to be placed in different parts of the brain to activate different parts. Now, what Neuralink suggests, and I think a lot of other companies have suggested, that their first and foremost use for the product is to help people with disabilities. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's very correct. So the main people that they want to help out first are people that are paraplegic or severely paralyzed. And, like, it's much easier for them to work with that because they have found out that they can actually bypass neuron pathways with their device. So it's just them rerouting, like, how the body moves just through electrical signal pathways in the brain. And that jives with one of their competitors, Paradromics. And what they're looking to do, and the only people that they're going to be working on first, is they are, according to the article I was reading, they were asking, when will we see this in humans? And they are currently on track to reach humans in early 2023 with hopes of improving the lives of people with severe paralysis first. So that coincides with Neuralink, restoring communication through text, cursor, and speech. Then, once they're done with that, the next target audience that they're going to be working on are people that are visually and hard of hearing, and restore that. So anybody that's sensory impaired. They're going to try and also work on mental health and get that at a more granular level to identify pathological patterns of brain activity. So people with epilepsy, people with very severe depression.
I wonder if pharmaceutical companies will like get involved in trying to like kind of do propaganda against Neuralink. Because if you think about it, like pharmaceutical industries has billions of dollars invested into it. So you're telling me we have a product that's a one shoe fits all type of deal. I think that's going to step in a lot of shoes, a lot of toes, if you know what I mean. For now, it's interesting to hear that this other company's already thinking about doing human trials, because I think one of the things that kind of sparked this whole idea is I've seen this post come up about the monkey testing. It just reminded me of all the hardships that NASA was putting through all these monkeys. And I think we even mentioned in our Space Animals podcast, like you mentioned too, like NASA was just euthanizing and getting rid of these monkeys that they couldn't use anymore, let alone how many we actually send to space. But now we're testing more of this tech on monkeys. And that whole Planet of the Apes thing is thinking about coming more and more true. I mean, it's fun to think about. Just, me and you joke about it. I think you mentioned right before we were talking this too, the other possibilities. Some people were speculating that not only Neuralink but other AI is going to take us down a apocalyptic path. Is that right? You were seeing some stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. Like, are you talking about like the rat neurons grown on a computer chip, and
Yeah.
they had it to where it was trained to fly a simulated aircraft?
Yeah, like jeez,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, it's like every day we're getting closer to making Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yeah, some people would be into that,
I bet. It's terrifying.
especially the people who have trains in their basements.
Yeah. It's terrifying. But so what else can you tell me about like what you found out with the whole monkeys rejecting it? And because like this just recently happened, right? Like they just covered that about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, well, Musk, when they were doing that whole presentation, he's like, "Oh, look at this monkey. He's a very happy monkey." And
this is Pager. He's a 9-year-old macaque who had a Neuralink placed in each side of his brain about 6 weeks ago. If you look carefully, you can see that the fur on his head hasn't quite fully grown back yet. He's learnt to interact with a computer for a tasty banana smoothie delivered through a straw.
But
oh yeah.
But we're hearing some really extreme suffering from some of these monkeys, where some of them were doing stuff like vomiting, retching, gasping after the Neuralink was implanted. One of them like collapsed after extreme fatigue and exhaustion and had to get put down. When they did an autopsy on one of them, it turned out they had a brain hemorrhage. Some of them just like go crazy, and reportedly they speculate that it hurt itself because it said it was missing some fingers or something. But I think the point here is that over 15 monkeys have literally just been killed from this testing. They're really ambitious about doing these clinical trials, and even on their website, I think that sparked a lot of articles when on the website they had put a job posting for a clinical manager. And so people were thinking, that's why people were like, oh, wow, they're going to start with human testing already. And I think the website says that though they're looking for participants at this moment, it's extremely, they do note, and they are very upfront about it being extremely dangerous. So, but then I thought of this. Remember, not too long ago, NASA was asking people to do a one-way trip to Mars. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
and I think that's still going to happen. But I think it was like what 300 people they were having to volunteer. Not you don't have to have any astronaut space training or anything. But they were obviously looking for people with different skills. There's a vetting process, but that's maybe it's just time at this moment in history that humans, us, start taking those leaps. And it's not fair to force anyone to do it, but if you want to volunteer, then by all means, because these monkeys aren't volunteering. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. It was the organization. It was a nonprofit. Like, what is it called? PCRM or something.
Right.
Yep, there it is. Yeah, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. That's the nonprofit that's like they focus on saving and improving human lives and animal lives.
Oh,
And
okay.
they filed the regulatory complaint against Neuralink. So
Wow.
I don't know.
The real question is, what are they going to do about it? Like, okay,
well, hopefully they're going to try and make this a thing where if they're going to be trying to put this in humans, then they're going to want to have a lot of the information, or at least help stop the possibility of people having the same types of reactions that monkeys had. Like, they want it to be as safe as possible. And like Musk
right,
keeps talking about that. Like, he keeps hammering that every time he gets a chance.
right, and I though they made their complaint to the USDA, they never. I don't think they immediately made a request to comment or made any action on this complaint. But it's like the man himself, Elon. He always he sparks a lot of controversy just by doing anything, whether it's just mentioning the whole crypto thing. People, he was memeing with that. He memes with Tesla, all kinds of shit. He says, about Elden Ring. He's like, yeah, some people like to work out. I just like to play really hard video games, aka Elden Ring. He's like a really interesting character, and some people take things he says a little bit too out of context, like his attitude towards things. But he's an intelligent guy, and it's just fascinating seeing everything that he's trying to do, whether it's SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, like what we're talking about now. But the whole thing was genius. Like, okay, we're gonna set up a live presentation where a monkey controls the computer with his mind. Now, people are like, oh, well, this isn't scientifically viable. Like, where's the other study and case material? But at the end of the day, and we were talking about this earlier, off the, between us, but this is a business. Like, this isn't strictly for scientific gain. Like, the whole goal of this is not only to help people, but they're going to be making money, and they got to sell a product. And as you mentioned, they have competitors.
Yep.
And
not to cut you off, but like one of the main goals or one of the things that Paradromics is hoping to achieve, and they feel like it can be achieved, is uploading to, what is it? Uploading your mind to the cloud.
oh, like uploading your whole mind and subconscious to just, like, what are they going to do with that?
The singularity is the point where our technology and ourselves are no longer two different things.
I mean, I guess people are already doing that at Harvard, right? Some people have their brains on display, or some people are even getting cryogenically frozen. We got Walt Disney's head.
So like right here in the article, it says Singularity University co-founder Ray Kurzweil predicts that we'll have a seamless high bandwidth connectivity between your brain and the cloud by the early to mid 2030s, say 2033. And that's pretty, I don't know. I don't know what to think about something like that. I don't understand like what would happen if people are already like in my head telepathically. Like I'm just like thinking of Ghost in a Shell,
Right.
when Major's like with her group and they're like in their own little room within their heads together.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's something that like that's shared like that.
Yeah,
But then,
Evangelion had like a
yeah,
similar concept where the whole point of the show was them trying to create this world where there was no boundaries and combine everyone's conscious together, kind of. It's similar to what you mentioned, and um but what if people don't want to do that? And I think our privacy is already being tested as it is. I mean, just think of all the information that Google, just Google as an example, has stored and sells. Facebook, any pretty much any social media outlet, Twitter, anything you use that's a quote unquote free service. All these websites, we're looking at these articles, and the first thing it asks me is, "Oh, do you want to accept these cookies?" Like, yeah, you can read the article for free, but we're gonna sell your information on the side. Is that okay? Choose which one you're okay with. So I just think the whole idea of upletting your mind, like, who is that going to benefit? Like,
so it's going to be benefiting the venture trust capitalists and all these other hedge funds that are investing. Like one company that I was looking at that I actually had to dig up off of Wayback Machine, Synchron, they had funding from DARPA, and it was like $20 million, right? And they had a research and development team out in Australia, and they also had base in the States, in New York, and somewhere in California. So, but I'm just like reading more and more about like who's this benefiting, right? Like who's investing in this, because like how we already kind of elaborated on, like it is a business, but a lot of these people are like robotics startups and AI startups, like all these startups. The people that are funding those startups, they're looking for the next biggest thing that's going to be able to get them some money in the medical field. But I'm reading off of this other article that they keep talking about how Tesla, one of the companies that's leading the charge in creating self-driving vehicles, like AI infused things, like the trucking and taxi industries employ 2 million a year, all of whom could find their jobs obsolete once vehicles are autonomous. And then I read later on, they're talking about how AI will surpass humans in a number of other milestones. The experts suggested translating languages is going to be happening by 2024, writing high school level essays by 2026, performing surgeries by 2053, and they estimated that it would be able to write a New York Times bestseller by 2049. So,
I mean, they're already making art. I mean, we showed me a few websites where you just enter in a few keywords and it, we're actually using a background from one of the websites I use right now. And
yeah,
it doesn't look half bad. And I can only imagine, like, this is just the stepping stones to what, a New York bestseller. What's next? Like music?
well,
I think we already have AI music as well.
Yeah,
right?
we do. But like what's even further is, according to a team that published a study last week or whatever from this article, they were saying that AI will be capable of performing any tasks better than humans, otherwise known as high-level machine intelligence, by 2060, and will overtake all human jobs by 2136. Those results are based on the 352 experts who responded. So,
well, that's
a lot.
It is a lot to consider, but I mean, there's still a lot of variables, right? I mean, going back to what Elon, I think you mentioned that he has a new nonprofit program dedicated to this whole.
Yeah. Talking about OpenAI.
Yeah.
To make sure that it's like not going to do what is in the best interest for humans.
There's no Skynet.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, there's hope for that. I that's wishful thinking. OpenAI is nonprofit. They ended up getting like $1 billion investment fund from Microsoft back in like 2019. I read off of their Twitter.
I don't know.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and does that mean that Microsoft is like scared of Cortana.
Well, that's one thing.
They're like, you know what? Maybe just in case, because a lot of people talk shit about Cortana, so we got to get rid of her. Nah, but all jokes aside, though, the whole idea of AI and how intrusive and how much reliant we are on it, it's actually something that we should also be careful. Not just the AI side, but we have to consider how intelligent people still are, and how people will try to reverse engineer these AIs, trick them. Cybersecurity is going to play a big role in locking down these AIs and making sure that no one can essentially hack it or get a hold of that access. So, if we're relying on these AI, we're going to give them, God access to whatever systems, right? Because they're scripted to do certain things. And then if they're reaching new levels of learning, then not only will we not have to write scripts for them and automate them manually, but they will learn on their own. And at that point, it's all just management. And I don't think we're quite there yet for a self-learning machine. I mean, there are machines that do self-learn in small ways, but we're not completely... There's no perfect system that doesn't require human intervention. So, and one can say that AI could probably protect itself, but who's to say someone builds another AI that's meant to penetrate other networks or other systems and collect that information and use it for whatever?
Than people realize, and the pace of progress is much greater than people realize. It'd be fairly obvious if you saw a robot walking around talking and behaving like a person, you'd be like, whoa, that's like, what's that? That would be really obvious. What's not obvious is a huge server bank in a dark vault somewhere with an intelligence that's potentially vastly greater than what a human mind can do. I mean, its eyes and ears would be everywhere. Every camera, every microphone, every device that's network accessible. That's really what AI means. It's not like a robot running around.
It's funny that you say that, because there's already been like cases where people are using Amazon's Alexa system and recordings in court. So,
well,
all because
it picks up everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like cut you off either, but the whole smart home idea, like, you ever remember watching like those 90 cartoons, and they'd always have that one episode about the future house, and then everyone's and then something always goes wrong, and the whole house tries to kill everyone, and it's like people don't learn. I'm not saying people don't learn. It's obviously meant for a comedy, but seriously, think about all this stupid shit we're using. Okay, we're using Alexa. Alexa, turn on lights. Alexa, turn on some music. Put it on Spotify, And all in the meantime, Alexa's listening to everything you're saying. Not to mention your phone and other equipment's already doing this, but it's going to be picking up all that and then using it for, Amazon's going to think, oh, you're looking for some new kitchen knives? All right, well, we'll send some suggestions subliminally. So it's like... The idea, I can see using these Alexa recordings, because it's like, okay, they're completely admissible. It's like, why use a tape recorder under the desk when you just have a common household item just sitting there that can record for you? You don't even have to pretend to hold your phone or record on your phone. You got the device right there. And what some people have been doing these black hats is they use these technologies, this Internet of Things, this technology. They have really weak security, and they don't get security updates very often. So even something like a light, some people penetrate a network just by hacking a fucking light because it connects to the Wi-Fi. So yeah, unless like the security gets improved on these things, because most manufacturers, they sell it for the gimmick. Like, hey, you can turn on the lights with your Amazon or whatever. They can just make it, never put out any other updates, and then just move on. Meaning you have an obsolete, with all the technologies. Think of how many Windows updates we get for all our devices, your iPhone, there's updates always coming in. And you're buying a device that's permanently linked to your network that's getting no updates. You don't think that at some point, if someone really wanted to try to get into your home network or whatever, that wouldn't be the first thing they try to get into. So,
Ooh.
And then
man, you just got me thinking. You got me thinking.
Oh yeah,
like you remember WannaCry, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so imagine, because like the whole Neuralink thing, that's going to be like, oh yeah, you control it with your phone, improve your sleep, meditate, improve learning, enhance all that,
and then you got
WannaCry
ransomware
2.0 comes around.
Yeah, you got ransomware on your phone saying, I'm going to fucking send signals to your brain and make you go crazy unless you pay me 10 Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I was so full disclosure, I was working in the Navy at the time with Josh during the WannaCry, and it was a big deal. They wanted it. There was a Microsoft patch that addressed it, and they wanted it on all systems immediately, and there was no rest until we hit every single system and got that patch updated. So it was a big deal, and it's even now, cybersecurity is always pushing, whether it's government, companies, they have to remain resilient because, like ransomware, it's a newer form of virus, but it's not. It's been around, but it's kind of a buzzword now because it's just hit people really hard lately. CD Projekt Red, the developers of The Witcher and Cyberpunk, were hit by it pretty hard. They lost a lot of information and it got leaked. Development schematics and a bunch of other confidential information about the games, and just because this guy was upset about Cyberpunk, a fucking video game. So who's to say some of these people are obviously not in the right mind. Some of them do it for political reasons, whether or not you still believe Anonymous is a real organization. There are other known hacker groups. I'm not going to name any names. I don't want them to hit me. Just kidding. But they all do things for different reasons. Some more aggressive than others. But let's just say that maybe one of them doesn't like the idea of Neuralink and they want to shut it down immediately. Or they just want to see the world burn. They might have the means to do that. And what defense do you have against something that's directly connected to your fucking brain? What are you going to do? Seriously, you're going to run to the hospital and tell them to get it out? Yeah, good luck.
Maybe. Well, I was asking a friend if he would ever opt into something like that, and he was just like, I would want one that's like a jailbroken version, one that I can get what I want on it, and if I can do all that shit.
There's an issue with that though, because and people don't realize that jailbroken devices are not secure at all. They don't, because once you jailbreak an iPhone or an Android, they stop getting security updates because the manufacturer is not going to send it to it anymore. Once it detects that it's jailbroken, now you can manually patch it, but who's actually going to do that? And let alone if you jailbreak a Neuralink, who the fuck, where are you going to get the patches? I mean, I don't know what the process will be to, I'm sure that to update the firmware, you'll probably have to, use the app or whatever, but you jailbreak a sensitive device like that that's connected to your brain, I don't think that's a very good idea, because what if they release the Neuralink and then maybe 6 months into production, let's say you jailbreak your device, and then all of a sudden they find a major firmware issue that could be life-threatening. Now you have to figure out a way to manually patch that, and then if you tell the manufacturer, like, hey, can you help me? And then they're going to say, oh, well, it looks like your device is defective or it's jailbroken, so we're not going to help you. Because you know what? Apple does the same fucking thing. If you jailbreak your device, they will not fix your iPhone at all. They won't touch it. It voids the warranty. And I'm guessing there'll be something like that with Neuralink too. There'll be something in the fine print that's saying if you mess with any electronics or any programming of the device, you'll void the warranty or any support. So, yeah, I don't think jailbreaking a medical device is a very good idea, in my opinion.
So the only thing that I can really see somebody that would jailbreak something like that for nefarious reasons would be is like we were talking, me and my friend were just talking about like what would be the benefit of that, right? And like the idea of like always having your adrenaline going, not being able to sleep would be another one, or not being able to feel pain,
I
stuff
mean,
like that.
I guess I could see that, like, and that's kind of like if we're going to fantasy and stuff, it's something kind of like in cyberpunk or in those movies or games. It's like, okay, let's manually stimulate ourselves. We do have now. Here's an interesting thing that you brought that up, because there are like combat drugs that do that. I mean, you can literally pump yourself with adrenaline or other things to utilize the chemicals that are already in your system, but excessive use of that will probably kill you. Like, if you can't feel pain, it doesn't matter if you can't feel it. Your body still has limits. Same thing with adrenaline. Yeah, it's gonna pump you up for a good amount of time, but eventually you're gonna have a major shutdown, or your heart might stop. Maybe in a sense where, like, I could see it being used for somebody. It's an interesting concept that your friend mentioned, but I just don't agree at all with, especially if I had some device like that, I would not tamper with it in any way like that. I mean, unless maybe like the government, they want to create like a super soldier or like a different type of special forces where, okay, instead of sending 6 guys, we're going to send one guy who can literally do everything, but he only lives for like 40 years, but they're aware of that. We sign him on at like age, 22, 20. We use them for 20 years, and then I don't know. And then they use these technologies to make them do whatever they want.
Going to be Elon born.
Yeah. They're basically
Something like that.
They're awakened. I don't know. They'll come up with some silly name for it.
Yeah.
But it's not without it's within the realm of possibility, I'll admit, but it's very dangerous thing to think about. And I don't know if everyone's going to agree with rolling this out, because right now people kind of know about Neuralink. People who are interested in tech definitely know about Neuralink. The general public kind of knows. They know about Tesla. They know kind of about SpaceX. But when this thing kind of becomes more mainstream, I can see people having issues with it.
Yeah, I mean, like the Amish.
A sheriff's deputy is on patrol in North Bloomfield in the heart of Trumbull County's Amish country when he spots a buggy. Inside, he sees 2 Amish men drinking spiked iced tea. On top of the buggy is a 12-pack of beer.
Well, they're not like, what the hell is a Tesla?
But the thing about the Amish, they're just not going to do anything about it. They'll probably just be like, "Look, son, if you get a Neuralink, you're banished. They're just going to shun you." They're so reclusive. I mean, they kind of just stick to themselves. They don't really.
It's true.
Like they're kind of almost apolitical as well. Well, I don't know about that, but they don't. Like, you never see like a post or a news article that says Amish man is upset about the presidential election. Like, they don't give a fuck. They're worried about their crops.
Yeah, their crops, their
cows,
their magic fire furnace.
Yeah,
their apple butter. Dude, I've met Amish people before. Like when I went there, I had to go because I was working on a farm before. Like I was like 18, and I was working on a farm. I had to bring a bunch of horses to get their horseshoes redone by a farrier, and so I'm there in a dually with a truck full of a bunch of horses, and I'm rolling up on the spot, and I just see like all these kids in like these Amish clothes, like the little bonnets and stuff, and they're just playing in the dirt with their like wooden toys and stuff, and they all get up at like the same time. There's like 3 of them. And I'm just like there rolling up with my friend in the passenger seat. And I'm like, dude, this is fucking scary. I don't like this at all. And then they all like, to make it worse, is like they're like waving in sync like at us. And I'm like, what is this? Dude, I'm so terrified.
That's creepy.
Yeah, it is, man. But and like I'm not gonna like put this out there because I don't know. That was my only instance with Amish people, but the one Amish guy, he came up to me and he was like, "Oh, so are you a Mexican?" And I was like,
Okay.
sir."
Yeah, and
I was
are
like,
you
"Yeah, I mean, on my dad's side, yeah." He was like, "I knew it. That's cool." I was like, "All right.
interesting?
So can we get these horses?" He's like, "Yeah, just come back in 6 hours." I was like, 6 hours?
Like what?
But no, yeah, dude. It takes a long time. They had to do the horseshoes, and they also had to work on some carriage,
Oh,
um,
I guess you
some carriage
couldn't.
rubber.
Yeah, I guess you couldn't phone ahead to tell them, right?
No, messenger pigeon maybe,
Dude,
but
like I
no.
would send a postcard and be like, "Hey, at this time, I want to pick up these horses. Have them ready." Shit, something. I'd be kind of mad if I went all the way out in the boonies and then they tell me come back in 6 hours. Like, well, dude, if you had a fucking phone, we could have set this up on a fucking phone
And then in
call.
the future, it's gonna be like, I mean, I could have just told you that like literally 10 minutes ago if you had a Neuralink.
Yeah, dude,
You
I could
damn
have just
Amish
sent the
people.
message. I wonder what they'll do to because essentially the electronics on this thing are no more than what's on a Fitbit to measure your heart rate and other. It's mostly a measuring device. So I don't know the full capability of what it's going to have to fully communicate to other people, or it'll probably have to still interface with your phone or something to function. Like I think
Yeah.
the first iteration of it will, mostly be a biomedical purpose, and then have the app to kind of track your information. Because that's what all these smartwatches and Fitbits do, is they kind of rely on your phone for a lot of things, whether it's GPS. Some of them do have GPS, like the Apple Watches and other stuff. You can do certain functions, but for the most part, they're mostly just measuring devices for your heart rate. Some of them measure your breathing and your sleep cycle, your REM. Because I use a Polar Ignite. No sponsorship here. It's just a device I own, and it's pretty accurate as far as heart rate, steps. I'm kind of like a nerd in two ways. I love gaming, RPGs, fantasy, science fiction, but I also use that nerdness of tracking stats into my fitness because I like just seeing how much I can do or whatever. And I'm not like a huge fitness nut. I'm not the most healthy person, but I do like tracking my progress because it's something visual and I can see it. With Neuralink, it might be something kind of addicting because you think about it. If someone's tracking like, oh, well, I made this much progress and I'm thinking about this stuff today. And going to what you said about mental health, full disclosure, I was diagnosed with ADHD as a kid. And when I was young, they showed me brains, they kind of explained it to you when you're a kid. And they show you different brains. And they show you these brain scans of people who have ADHD and people who don't have ADHD. And then with the people who have ADHD, you can see more brain activity in different parts of the brain. They're more hyperactive. And so it's interesting to me. And the same thing with most mental health. It's if you do a brain scan on these people, their brains sending off different signals in real time. And you can see the difference between a normal brain and people with different mental health issues. So I'm thinking okay, instead of taking these prescription medicines, and I know we already kind of talked about this, but it's still interesting to me. But it would be interesting to see on my app and see, oh, well, your activity today using the Neuralink, we suppressed these signals. So normally these signals that might have made you maybe a little tense, pissed off or hyperactive or impulsive, we've suppressed those signals. Or let's say you have depression. Well, you're feeling down for no reason. Normally during this time you feel kind of down. You don't know why, but during this time, Neuralink has suppressed this. Or someone has anxiety. It was we noticed that you've been getting a little riled up, so we calmed you down a bit. How would you like to rate this performance or whatever? I don't know. Send diagnostics to Elon now? I would be kind of interested if I could see visual representation like that.
Well, I mean, if it's going to be on your phone, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, if you're talking about min-maxing your main character in real life,
Yeah, dude, because
pretty sure
you are the main character. I mean, at the end of the day, same thing with raising my daughter, dude. I'm already like trying to track her stats. I'm like, all right, so she can do this now. She's still lacking on some of these other milestones, so we got to get her there. It's like, okay, where can we improve? You know, it's funny to think about, but it's fun because I'm not saying you have to measure everyone with stats, but that's essentially what they're already doing. I mean, credit score, we're matching everyone's financial records and how trustworthy you are. China's social credit score, where they're tracking how loyal you are or how trustworthy you are in general. You know, every country has some form of tracking to figure out what kind of person you are. I mean, even your criminal medical records, like your AB type or your O type, your race, your gender, whatever. All of those have variables in your physical performance and who you are. Your bones are different if you're a male or female, or even your race. They even look at this in forensics. So it's like, okay, now we're getting in the realm where we can change things in your brain. We can change things that are possibly, maybe later, change things that are physical. You know, people are already kind of changing their bodies in different ways. So at what point are we going to kind of stop? Like, when we say...
I think once people are gonna start feeling it, like on the social economic level, like if they're in poverty, middle class, upper middle class, and you know,
like
stuff like that.
You feel like they'll feel left out, like they'll be the inferior race?
I think that it's gonna get down to the point where people can't either afford it, can't
even survive, maybe.
Yeah, like they're gonna be left behind. Like all I'm thinking of is just like something like what's that one movie, Elysium? But
Yeah.
like even that movie, it's kind of just like what we're talking about. Like they're like worst case scenario, everything is like absolute shit on Earth, whatever. But then they have Elysium, that Halo looking ring, and some very questionable guy ends up getting himself some backdoor exoskeleton suit, goes to Elysium, and gets those pods and brings it back to Earth, and then just heals everybody. Like I don't know. That's like best case scenario.
Yeah, but the only problem with that is like there's no fucking mythical land that has all our answers. Unless
no, but the technology is definitely there. If we're talking strictly on technology, that's it. And I think like they're gonna hide it from us, or they're gonna make it only accessible to people that have the money or have like a status of some sort.
Or going back to the whole jailbroken thing too, it's like people will probably just steal that shit, reverse engineer, and make something of their own, or other competitors will have cheaper alternatives, I guess. But so maybe there'll be someone who can make it more accessible. But at the end of the day, we've been kind of harsh on the whole idea of Neuralink, but let's really think about who it's actually helping. I mean, we already have so much different technology that can help people with disabilities, whether it's people missing limbs, people who can't walk, people who can't...
They just have just genetic disorders,
genetic disorders, or anything physical or mental. I mean, we have so much stuff. I mean, you shared another article with me about how we're even making games more accessible. I mean, I know gaming isn't important, but everyone should be able to have the opportunity to enjoy themselves with whatever, right? I mean, there's a lot of activities that, it's like, okay, maybe some of these people can't go hike a mountain, or they can't go go-karting, or something. Just little things, or golfing, or play sports, but they can play a game that can simulate that. I mean, there's so many different controllers and different chairs, and I mean, I don't know. It's nice that game devs too, like, I think most games nowadays have even a colorblind mode. So it's nice that games kind of like just incorporate that just cause. And then, of course, we always see the disclaimer too. It's like, hey, this game has flashing lights. If you have, seizures, if you're prone to getting seizures, then you might not want to play this game. All of that's kind of addressed. And sooner or later, people who have access to something with Neuralink, they don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I'm all for having people feel like they belong. And if that's like your selling point for Neuralink, cool. I'm all for it. Like people are gonna want it. And if it's gonna take like a surgery and it's only meant for people that exhibit like these certain types of symptoms like paralysis, severe depression, loss of sense, then eyesight or hearing or otherwise, then yeah, I'm all for it.
Like, man,
like give them their lives back.
Yeah, exactly, dude. One of my biggest fears is losing the abilities to use my legs. That is like one of my biggest. It's such a like ridiculous fear, but I think about it and I'm like, damn, I would lose the ability because I love cycling. I'm not a huge. I don't do it like every day, but it's something I really enjoy. And if I couldn't do that anymore, then I feel like I would lose like part of my humanity almost, because that's just something I live for and I enjoy. Driving, whatever, I can't drive, but I think they actually do have cars for people who can't use their legs, but definitely can't ride a bike and definitely just can't do little things. If I had the ability or the opportunity to get that back, then I would do it in a heartbeat, whatever means necessary.
Yeah.
And people who are born like that or suffer a fatal accident, it's like, yeah, I'm sure they might take that chance too, maybe. We still got to make sure it's safe. Like, these people aren't expendable. Just because they have disability doesn't mean that we can just do whatever tests. Like, it has to be safe. And I'm glad that they're kind of really putting a point on that, because if they weren't, then it would be kind of shady.
Right. And yeah, we were being harsh on it, and I wasn't very considerate to like think about, like, even though I may have my apprehensions about like all the bad that could happen, and I'm thinking way down the line, probably well past my my life. But there's people that are very excited about this technology that is just around the corner, and they're right up that, like they're betting on it. They're betting on them being able to see again, walk again, all that. Like,
it's a beautiful thing to think about, really.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I'm very, very excited for it.
As cynical as I'm sorry, it's just a friend just mentioned as we took a break, MLK quote. It kind of made me think. It's like, yeah, we have guided missiles, but we don't have guided men. And I see, and that's the whole reason why I think we're just both kind of cynical about this, is because people are just naturally not good. I'm sorry, but no one's born a good person. It takes a lot to genuinely be a good person. I'm not claiming I am either, but people in power, people who have this tech, or the money to fund this or do whatever, it's at the end of the day, they're fulfilling their interests. Though right now, I think we should still be hopeful, like Josh mentioned, Ohms, that this is going to be good for a lot of people in the future to come. So whether or not we don't trust every single individual that might be involved in this, we can at least say that there will be thousands, perhaps millions, who could actually benefit and have a better life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a good point to end the show. Where can they find us?
Well, Ohms, I noticed you've been streaming a lot more.
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah. So Ohms over here has been doing his Twitch at Ohms Dev. He's been doing a lot of art streams, a bit of gaming here and there, but mostly focusing on art. He actually created this new artwork here with the little mouse in the spaceship looking for the Ohms Lounge. It's a little bit of work in progress, but I really like how it came out. We had some suggestions with the license plate, Cheddar 69, some other small little details in there, but you can find him also on Twitter. I'm also on Twitter as well, at thelonesalesman. We like to update blog posts on our WordPress website. We're working on transcribing not all of our podcasts, but every now and then we'll try to transcribe it. It's nice to have that option for people who might be hard of hearing if they're interested in the Ohms Lounge. So we have that option. So we're also on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We're trying to grow our social presence slowly but surely. It's a little bit hard for both of us to always commit to this, but as always, I thank you everyone for listening. Ohms, thank you for your time. Any other last words?
Find us on BitChute.
Yeah.
And
for the truth seekers,
tell us what you like. Tell us what we can improve on. We like to hear from you.
Yes.
Hit us up. Expect more from us.
Yes, we are planning
Give
to
us
do.
Suggestions.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from anyone who's listening, whether we talk more about stuff like this, some movies, or more interesting tech stuff. Let us know. And that's it. See you guys next time at the Ohms Lounge. Bye. So, at what point are we going to kind of stop?
I'm going to answer your question with mine. I'm going to stop when I'm a 7 foot tall war robot. Not 7 foot tall, sorry, 7 stories tall.